Hi, Gary Stearman. Time for another daily update from Prophecy in the News. Today it is the 19th of June, and in studio we have Bill Salus. You know Bill, he wrote Psalm 83, a tremendously successful book on the prophecy that is found in Psalm 83. Today we're going to talk about Bill's new book, Nuclear Showdown in Iran. Hi Bill, how are you?
Gary, good to see you again.
Good to have you here. This book, by the way, I should say right up front, and I'll mention this later, this book's not going to be available for about 2 weeks, so you're going to have to hold your breath like a lot of other people. Nuclear Showdown in Iran, the subtitle, Revelations are revealing the Ancient Prophecy of Elam. And the big question, what in the world is Elam?
Yeah, well, this is a prophecy that's basically been forgotten. It's been vastly overlooked, and yet it appears to be a prophecy for our time, and maybe even an imminent prophecy that could happen at any given time. And it is simply 6 verses of some very well-detailed prophecies that make a lot of sense for our time. And what it points out, Gary, is that Iran has double trouble in the end times. Most of your viewers, of course, are familiar with that Gog of Magog, Ezekiel 38, where Persia is listed, representative of Iran. You know, Iran used to be called Persia up until 1935. So we know Iran's in end times Bible prophecy, but his contemporary, when Ezekiel wrote, which is probably between 593 BC and maybe 573 in that area there, well, a year prior in 596 BC, Jeremiah probably wrote this prophecy. And when you look on a map today, Elam represents about a sixth of modern-day Iran, and that hugs the Persian Gulf toward the west side of Iran, and Persia kind of represented the rest of it in those prophets' days. So Iran has double jeopardy in the end times, and that's what the book points out, 2 prophecies.
Yes, and as we speak, right now today, the 19th of June, big things are happening within miles, within just a very short distance of the old territory of Elam. We're talking about the rise of ISIS, which is in the news today. And a lot of people are saying the warriors of ISIS, Islamic terrorists, are more vicious even than Al-Qaeda. What in the world is going on over there, Bill?
Utter chaos, Gary, ever since the Arab Spring, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, when you step back and you look at the big picture, nothing good really has happened for Israel around them since the Arab Spring with their neighbors. Things good have happened for Israel. They've been finding natural gas, and of course they are becoming more protectorate of their own existence. But it has been a very bad situation, and it's really gone unchecked during our current administration's watch. I'm not faulting anybody here, but what I'm saying is it's obvious that since the Arab Spring, they're just advancing over there in the Middle East, and Iran's getting involved now too, because the ISIS is moving down towards Baghdad. South of Baghdad is Karbala, which is a very holy site to the Shiites, down to Najaf and down to Basra. And so then this conflict may sort of come to a head for a while, because the Shiite areas down there versus the Sunni areas that they've taken over with the ISIS are going to probably start to go toe-to-toe. Baghdad's going to be very hard for them to take over.
Absolutely. Now, as we speak, things are very dramatic in the Middle East, and particularly in the area in question. The prophecy of Elam is found in Jeremiah 49, beginning in verse 34, the word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam, you may say Elam. And this prophecy then goes on in a most amazing way. It has 7 I wills in it. These are unlike the I wills of Satan when he started to say, I will be like the Most High. These are the I wills of God. And when God says I will 7 times, wow, he will.
Number of completion, right.
It is the number of completion.
Yeah, we have a complete prophecy with a lot of detail put into these, summed up into these 6 verses. And in a real nutshell is that the Lord gets fiercely angered by Iran. And I point out in the book that this is a prophecy that has not found fulfillment yet. And because he's fiercely angered, he brings about a disaster, a judgment, calamitous judgment over there. He strikes them at the foremost of their might. He breaks their bow. Then there's a worldwide dispersion by the affected population. And verse 36, we then find out that Iran has enemies and they're going to stand in awe at the magnitude of this disaster. And then in verse 38, we find out that the Lord is going to set his throne in Elam. This is the good news for Elam, ultimately. In verse 39, we find out that he's going to restore the captives, those exiles. He's going to bring them back into Elam. Of course, that would be in the Messianic kingdom, a faithful remnant of Iranians. That's the good news. And amidst this backdrop of this repressive Iranian regime, you have Christianity is burgeoning so out of control over there, so exponentially, that the Ayatollah came out 2 years ago and decreed a campaign to close down Christian churches, persecute pastors, and persecute Christians. It's the most amazing thing going on. We really want to invite your viewers to just get a handle on what's going on over there, both geopolitically and prophetically and spiritually. It's a humbling experience.
You know, of all the places on planet Earth where you wouldn't expect a Christian revival, Persia, Iran, would be the #1 place. Those Ayatollahs over there are fierce and totally in control of everything. And for a revival across the landscape to be growing as rapidly as it is there, that is the hand of God in action.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the Lord is allowing it to get so out of control over there so that we'll start to recognize that he is in control, and that we thank him for the information he's imparted with us through prophecies like Jeremiah 49:34-39 and Ezekiel 38 and Psalm 83, because we realize he knows the end from the beginning. He's not going to let things get out of control.
Right.
And we can then cling to him for our salvation and for our deliverance through these tough times.
This prophecy, by the way, and again, Bill has gone into, take my word for it, he's gone into amazing depth and detail to bring the features of this prophecy out to the forefront. But it is in verse 39, in the following words, "But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord." In the latter days, that would be now, I will bring again the captivity of Elam. And these words remind me of what he says about Israel. I'll bring again the captivity of Judah and of Israel, where he's talking about a regathering of some kind here, right?
Yeah, the theme of remnant coming out of Israel is a predominant theme, numerous passages. But you also have the Lord in his compassionate heart is going to have a remnant of Iranians, and we find that out in Jeremiah 49 here. He's going to have a remnant from Assyria and Egypt, and that's in Isaiah 19 at the latter verses. Remnant of Jordanians in Jeremiah 48, and also Jeremiah 49, 1-6 and elsewhere. So what we find is this, that the Lord is going to populate the Messianic kingdom with these ethnicities. But the problem is, and this is why we reach out to him right now, is that between now and then they're going to have to go through these prophecies. And these are devastating, disastrous prophecies. Fortunately for many right now, they're coming to the Lord. But those people are going to be raptured ultimately, and the others are going to have to go through these things. And these may even occur, some of them, before the rapture. Jeremiah 49 seems to be an imminent event, just like Psalm 83. It's just an amazing time with all these signs converging.
Well, any closing thoughts?
Well, what we're talking about, Gary, is world-changing prophecies that will definitely adversely affect America. Iran has threatened if its nuclear program gets struck, and that appears to be what Jeremiah could be talking about, that they could unleash terror inside of America, cycles of violence. Of course, Israel will be a target as well. So to your viewers, I would say we could wake up tomorrow morning or anywhere in the near future, and missiles could be flying, and their world could be about to change very severely.
Well, Bill, we've just scratched the surface on your new book, and so would you come back and talk to us on tomorrow's update?
I will be back.
All right, and we'll see you then, over the weekend, as a matter of fact. I'm Gary Stearman. Have a great day in the Lord, and remember, keep looking up.